Danica McKellar, what a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
We're going to geek out over communication skills in all of its forms today. I know that people recognize you depending on the generation and when they watch TV a lot. Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years. And in my household, these days, especially around the holiday season, you're on my screen a lot with those
Christmas movies. Yes.
The Christmas movies.
Yeah.
On Hallmark and Great American Family. I'm sure must be a new one for this year.
Yes, indeed. It's called Have We Met This Christmas? And it premieres on December 13th on Great American Family Channel. And it is my 12th Christmas movie and the first one that I wrote. Speaking of writing.
Now that I know you wrote it, I'm going to be watching it from a different lens because yes. I'm endlessly fascinated by screenwriters and writing, especially for a movie or a film or TV shows. Speaking of writing, then, allow me to geek out for a moment because you have a recurring role on The West Wing.
Yes.
That means you had a front row seat to the writing process of Aaron Sorkin. Now I'm jealous.
Nobody gets a front row seat to that process. That happens somewhere else. He just comes in. What was fun is that there'd be last minute changes. Yeah. I mean, last minute drastic changes, like the day of. And like, oh my God, this is so much better. Wow, how what just happened? He just would get inspiration.
Aaron Sorkin has a quote that I've used in my books and when I speak and work with executives on communication. And he said, a great story is intention and obstacle. A hero has an intention to do something, to chase something, but the obstacles get in the way. And how does the hero deal with it? Every great story, intention and obstacle. I like applying that to business communication in every way as well, because I look for people who are creative and interesting communicators. It's a skill, just like math is a skill that you've learned. You know what I think is really cool, and the reason why I wanted to talk to you is that you have a passion for a subject, mathematics, and you've been able to take that passion and turn it into an educational and publishing business and to teach children and young adults about math. I think there's a lot of tips for anyone who has to take complicated material or intimidating material and make it easy to understand and fun and entertaining. You once said, I love taking something intimidating and making it understandable. That sounds like something I would have said.
And fun.
So cool.
And fun.
And fun.
Entertaining. I mean, I've been an entertainer my whole life. I've been in entertainment for 40 years. And I've been writing math books for 20 years, and they are entertaining math books. And that's the point.
Yes.
Is that you can make it. Look, math is a language. Math is just a language. It's the language of the sciences. It's the language of the world. But that language, if it remains foreign, is intimidating and scary.
Right.
So we have to translate math into something that makes sense for kids. I have books for ages babies through high school geometry, and they're all on Amazon, wherever you buy books online.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a ton. How many are there? I was surprised.
Well,
I know
this is my 12th math book. Okay, so yeah, my 12th Christmas movie this year and my 12th math book. What are they?
I love it. Okay.
So this book teaches kids to count to 100, all in the context of unconditional love from a parent to her child. And every page has a different scenario on it, different emotions, showing the child that he or she is loved no matter what's going on. If they're angry, if they're happy, if they've made a mess, whatever it is, they are loved. Parents these days are so busy. I think busier than ever, more distracted than ever. It's more important than ever to sit down and read with your child. And I Love You 100 is a great book for that, because not only is it a beautiful book to read with your child, it gives parents the tools and the language to communicate unconditional love, what that looks like. So your child feels loved, safe, and is starting to get comfortable with numbers, which is so important. If kids are afraid of numbers, they tend to turn into adults who avoid numbers. And then, can you get by in life without knowing any math? I mean, you can, but what happens? You get ripped off. And the worst part is you don't even know it, because you don't want to look at the APR on your credit card. You don't want to look at when you refinance the mortgage. I don't know what that means. They've just added money to your mortgage. Whatever. Yeah. Like, understanding numbers and being comfortable with it is so important. Money runs the world, and we don't want a generation growing up after generation who's avoiding it. And I feel like we're seeing that now, and I want to try to help change the tide.
Big picture then. Why are so many of us afraid of math? I'll go further. Many people will say, I hate math. Why? Is it because of the way we were taught it?
Like I said, math is a foreign language. And if it's not translated correctly, it remains scary and foreign. Things we don't understand are scary and we don't like them. We reject them. Also, it's become strangely popular in this culture for many generations now to brag about not being good at math. I guess because we feel like we're joining a club that everyone understands. Oh, yeah. Oh, I can't do math. Oh, I'm not a math person. But you would never say that about reading. You would never say, oh, I'm just not like a words person. I just never really learned to read. Almost people, take pride in not being good at math. And all it does is hurt us. It hurts the person who's saying it, and people around them. I tell parents, I'm like, look, if you are afraid of math and you don't like math, when you raise your children, please don't tell them that. If you keep one thing from your child, keep that. And if they're asking you for help and you don't know how to help them, just say, you know what? This looks different from when I learned it, which is probably true anyway. Yeah. Let's figure that together, sweetie. Let's get help together and then face those fears and do it together. It's really important to me to translate this stuff and to help kids see that math is not just a class they're taking, but it's something that can sharpen their brain. Doing math is like going to the gym for your brain. It makes your brain stronger in all ways of problem solving, overcoming obstacles, because when you do something that's difficult and you think you can't do it, but you stick with it and you figure it and then you get it, you've taught yourself you're stronger and smarter than you thought. And then the next time you come across something really challenging, you start to train yourself to go, you know what, this looks really challenging. It's a good thing I've got me on my side because I do hard things. I know how to do this.
Let's break this down because I don't think most people are not going to appreciate how hard it is to take something like math or frankly, a lot of other technical or complex subjects and break them down for a specific audience. That's what I'm getting from you. You use analogies in many of your books. You use visuals, storytelling. This is storytelling. And visuals. I want everyone to see.
Oh, yes.
Okay, what is the first thing people see? They don't see numbers. They don't see text. They see visuals. And neuroscientists like John Medina, who I'm a big fan of, and some of the other neuroscientists I've talked to say visual is, far more powerful than text or numbers alone. You have to match it with visuals. What's the first thing people do when they design a PowerPoint? It's all just text and numbers. Like, no, you have to understand how we process information.
Well, they say in terms of memory, we remember things that have an emotional charge to them. And so if you tell a good story that has a little bit of an emotional charge to it in any way, even if it's just funny, which is the best, you'll remember it more. So in this book, I'll go back to this book, The Time Machine, because I do a lot of storytelling in this one. Now look, I Love You 100 is a story. It is a story. I have Double Puppy Trouble, also a story. These are picture books that teach like one math concept as they're telling a fun story.
Oh, I see. That's one math concept. That's why it's count to 100. That's the concept.
And that's what you're learning. And you're learning number sense. Also, you're learning the fact that 100 comes in groups of 10.
Yes.
You're sort of learning the decades. And then at the end, I have a whole section that just shows like, hey, let's look for patterns. Let's look for patterns in the hundreds chart. Yeah. I sort of talk through like coloring them in different ways.
Yep.
Shows different patterns. So there's that. But then a lot of other my books, the ones for older kids, they teach math, but use little stories along the way. So the Time Machine teaches multiplication and division. I tell stories for them. So like, for example, and you got to know your audience. 6 times 7 is 42. So for the 6, imagine a 6-sided block of cheese, right? Cubes have 6 blocks. 7, imagine the days of the week. So now we're talking about a story that has something to do with blocks and 7 days. So Mr. Mouse, who's one of the main characters of the Time Machine, he eats a block of cheese every day for 7 days. And at the end of those 7 days, he's pretty full and farty too. So farty too sounds like 42. An 8-year-old, 9-year-old's going to remember that. And so now they've just learned 6 times 7 is 42. And so using storytelling, using fun little analogies and stories and characters is absolutely the way to get to kids or really anybody. Like you said, my older kids' books and like math doesn't suck. It teaches fractions, decimals, percents, all the stuff that you kind of need in everyday life if you want to be savvy with your finances, for example. And I tell stories and make characters for that too. Yep. One of the most useful tools in dealing with fractions are fractions that have the same number on top and the bottom. 3 over 3, 2 over 2, because this is how you reduce fractions. It's how you create equivalent fractions. It's how you get the lowest common denominator. So I call these copycat fractions.
Okay.
If they're the same. So as soon as you're calling it a copycat fraction, now it's not like just some soulless fraction. It's a little kitty cat, and there's pictures of cats in there.
Yeah.
So like when you're reducing a fraction, you got to find the hidden copycats. And now you're on a mission to find the hidden copycats that are hiding, and then you can reduce the fraction. So just things like that to bring it alive have been such a joy. And I really, I have to credit my dual life of having my acting background and loving storytelling and knowing how to affect people and make them feel things. And then also my love of math. I took a break from acting for 4 years to get a degree in mathematics. Right. So combining those two things to make entertaining, math books has been such a joy. And it's, like you said, it's about finding a way to communicate. And to me, it's through entertainment. Make people feel entertained, give them a laugh, make them go, oh, that's so cute. Yeah. Those things help us to shake off the stigma and the fear of math and all the other, stigmas that are attached to math. And just now we're talking about a kitty cat. Now we're talking about a farty mouse who ate too much cheese. We're not talking about boring math. We're talking about these fun things.
And you're using a classic communication concept that, again, not everyone realizes, is that when you have to make something that's unfamiliar familiar, use objects or things or places that people know.
That are familiar.
That are familiar to that audience. So in one of your books, I remember Math Doesn't Suck. Love the titles, by the way. Math Doesn't How to Survive Middle School Without Losing Your Mind or Breaking a Nail. But I think you start with friendship bracelets. Okay. Something that girls especially, I know you're very focused on making sure that girls are empowered to learn math, but you start with something they would know. Of course, friendship bracelet.
Something that sounds fun. That sounds fun. I want to make a friendship bracelet with a regular pattern. And how do I do that? Oh, well, if I know my factors, then it makes it easier to make a regular pattern. I have 8 beads, so I can do that in sets of 4 or sets of 2. Okay, I know what I have, and I know what I can do with them.
You write for the audience, and I think this applies to communication in all of its forms, regardless of the audience. I remember talking to Dr. Art Markman, who has a popular podcast. He's a psychology professor at UT Austin. But he told me that's the presenter's paradox. Presenter's paradox is you know too much about your topic. What you have to do is think about your audience first. You're not going to tell them everything you know. You tell them what they need to know, but you meet them where they are. That's what you're doing with the books, whether it's middle school, young adult, children. You meet them where they are and use familiar case studies and examples to meet them where they are.
Because you clearly know more about the science behind it than I do. For me, I think maybe it's from being an actress and imagining what it would be like just to be in someone else's shoes. Yeah. That I just sort of automatically go, okay, well, who's my audience? And how would they, if I pretend that I'm them, what do they care about? Yeah. What do they care about? What's going to make them sit up and pay attention? I often say about Math Doesn't Suck or any of these books, if you have a child who's resistant to math and you want to try to help them with one of my books, I always recommend buy the book, don't talk about it, just put it on the coffee table. And your child will be like, what's that? Like the one for 6 and 7-year-olds is called Do Not Open This Math Book. Yeah. Why? I had a 6 and 7-year-old, when he was that age, all you had to do was say, don't touch that. He'd touch it, you couldn't stand it. So know your audience and make it fun.
Danica, this might be something that you may or may not know. A lot of people in business don't know this, so I tend to write about it quite a bit. Do you know that the best writing, when people say you have to write better, especially for business, good writing is about 8th grade reading level. And a lot of professionals are like, 8th grade, that's dumbing it down. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because I've researched the Warren Buffett financial letters, which are like role models for finance. I did a whole book on Jeff Bezos. I looked at his letters. Most of those financial letters are about 8th or 9th grade language, and they're talking about really complicated stuff. So
you're saying vocabulary, like the vocabulary itself, not the concepts.
Not the concepts. You're absolutely right. The concepts, you would have to be a little older or in business to understand what the concept means, but the words are short. Long words are replaced with short words, short sentences. one theme per sentence. It makes, if you're trying to reach a broad audience, scientists will say write for an 8th grade level. And that's why I tell people read children's books, read a young adult.
But somebody needs to tell the lawyers that, because the sentences go on. I read every word of every contract that I sign, as you can imagine. And
I can't imagine it.
It takes forever. I'm like, what? Okay, where's the subject? Okay, here's the first noun. Okay, and then all the modifiers, like making sure you hold the whole thing in your head. Yeah, it doesn't need to be like that.
Right.
I agree. All communication can be simply stated. If you have a point and what you're saying is true, and it can be clear. It should be clear. And if it is more complicated, you can do it in shorter sentences and take the person along the way in the journey.
Yeah. Do you have?
It depends on your goal. It depends. Do you want to seem smart, or do you want to reach people and actually communicate? Right.
That's right. Most people I write for or who I work with want to reach people. Well, this is how you reach people.
There you go.
I have one question for you. Elephant in the room. Elephant in the math classroom. I get this a lot from my perspective when I teach communication, public speaking, and writing. People will say, well, why do I need that skill when now I can just type it into ChatGPT and have it write it for me? I wonder how many people are saying, hey, Chat can just answer the math question. Why do I have to be good at it?
Well, if you want to strengthen your brain and be good at life, you can become the kind of person who simply goes to ChatGPT for every single thing. Good luck when there's no Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. But if you want to have that confidence also, we see depression on the rise, and I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but I have to believe that when we spend time on ourselves, working on ourselves, making ourselves stronger, and putting in the effort, believing that we are worth that little extra bit of effort to understand something challenging, believing in ourselves, that lifts us up. And then we're just happier human beings, and we can contribute more. You want to be dependent, or do you want to be the person who creates the things other people might end up being dependent on, like tools or a math book to understand? Like, who do you want to be? And I talked to my son about this. Which role do you want to play in the world? Do you want to be a leader, a source of when you creating things for people? Or do you want to simply use all the tools that are out there and then not really develop yourself? So it's a philosophical question. Just like you can get along in life without understanding math, and you will get ripped off. It's just a lower quality of life. And I don't want that for people. I want to lift people up and to show them the value of the confidence that comes from feeling smart and capable. And that is a gift that only you can give yourself. Nobody else can give it to you, and nobody else can take it away.
Yeah. Excellent. Fantastic. Danica, awesome. Congratulations on writing so many of these math books that simplify and make an intimidating topic fun. It's okay to be fun. People want to be entertained. Otherwise, they're not going to listen to what you have to say, and they're not going to remember it. Be entertaining. Right. It's not a bad word.
You tell a funny story. You tell a personal story in public speaking. People want to hear a story. They want to hear a story. They want to be entertained. They want something to grab onto, to relate to, and then you can give them the information. And if you're doing it right, you're giving them the information within the storytelling, and that's what I do with my book.
Thanks, Danica. So nice to meet you.
You too.